Hello, hello. Happy Sunday. Just getting things together for a little cooking show. Happy Sunday. I am doing, a little meal prep. So hey, how about I show you what I got? Hoping everybody's weekend is going really well. It's Sunday, 5 o'clock here, and I want to talk about menopause. Yay, menopause. Oh. So, if you are jumping on live, you have to say hello, give me a wave, give me a like, give me a whatever. And if you are watching the replay, you need to do the same thing because I do these pretty much every week and I need to make sure that this is beneficial for all of you and that you are learning things so that I keep doing what I'm doing. So please, if you are watching this, give me a hey. I'm gonna put my hair up because I am cooking. Nothing worse than hair in your own food, right? So we are talking about menopause, and we will talk a little bit about perimenopause because I invited women that were even a little bit younger in the sense of like 37, 38 plus in your 40s, who may not be in obviously menopause yet, but who are having some hormonal imbalances already. So a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about is going to be beneficial anyways. So right now, what I'm going to be doing though, before we get started, is I am dicing up some red peppers. So we are doing my Italian sausage roast. This is the easiest recipe you are ever going to find. So while I am cooking normally, what I did is I took two relatively small zucchinis, I cut them in half, and I baked them skin side down actually. I just flipped these. And I baked them for about 20 minutes. I personally like them to be soft when I fill them up versus harder. I don't know, I just like my zucchini softer versus firmer, but you can just cut them and then we're actually just going to scoop out the insides too as well. But again, if you want to skip that step, you like 100% can do that. It will cut you probably 20 minutes of time, but while I'm cooking the meat, you can do that at the same time. I just had been making banana bread and I popped in it at the same time. So it's entirely up to you. It's not a necessary step, but it cuts the secondary cooking time in like half. So that's why. So the recipe honestly is, sorry, I'm going back, is just, you can use pork, turkey, or beef. I prefer to use a higher cut of a fattier cut of meat. So if you are doing, let's say turkey or chicken, you need to use the thigh ideally. And then obviously beef, you don't want to use extra lean beef, or lean you can, I guess. It's got a little bit more fat. I'm just making sure that that's not scorching hot. So you can use those particular meats, but you do want to use a higher fat meat. And the reason why is because we want the fat. It's the fat that it's actually going to help us feel fuller, but fat, saturated fat in particular, is actually really great for hormone production. So since we're talking about hormones, that makes sense. So essentially all this recipe is that zucchini, your meat, your ground meat, and a jar of pasta sauce. And that is it. However, because I like to amp things up, I like to make a little bit of a a little bit more nutrition. So I'm adding in some red pepper in mine, a little diced red pepper, and I'm going to toss in some chopped spinach and parsley at the end for myself personally. This is the great thing about this recipe, is you can actually customize it and add some things to it. Isn't that cool? So I'm going to chop, and then I'm going to saute my meat. I have, I think, probably a pound or 3/4 of a pound of ground beef. And if you have extra, which we will, you can use that as pasta sauce. How easy is that? And then freeze it, which is probably what I'm going to do. So here's the thing. Menopause, difference between menopause and perimenopause. Menopause is when obviously you stop having your period for a year. So you have to have a full year without a period. Now, perimenopause is really more symptomatic. So symptoms that you may be experiencing with perimenopause is you might be having, obviously, infrequent period, for example. So your period is not coming as often. You're skipping periods. Maybe it's going long, maybe it's going short, probably more on the short side, I guess. PMS, hot flashes, sleeplessness, all of those things generally will happen. Perimenopause will generally happen in your late 30s and obviously your 40s and into your 50s, while menopause, obviously for most people will happen, most women, will happen when you're in your 50s. Except my mother, for example, had menopause at 45. I think it might have been a little bit earlier than that. So in a pan, by the way, I'm just putting some avocado oil. I am going to saute those peppers, and I'm going to put my beef in all at the same time. You can throw in onion. You can throw in onion, garlic as well if you'd like. And away we go. That's it. So we're going to let that saute, and then pretty easy what happens afterwards. So also, my beef is grass-fed beef. Very important if you're using beef to use grass-fed. I'm going to turn this down in a second, so hang tight with me. So grass-fed beef has just got more nutrients in it. It's healthier. You can get organic, would be nice. Beef too as well. Again, you can use any meat you want. This is just my preference. Okay, I'm going to let that saute a little bit. So that's menopause, that's perimenopause, will happen for women at different points of time. So here's the thing about menopause or any of those things and weight gain, unexplained weight gain. It is not uncommon that when you go into menopause that you can gain a minimum of 10 pounds. And the reason for that is obviously an increase in estrogen versus progesterone sometimes is an indicator of that. So your estrogen might be on the rise and may also increase, of course, your weight. I made some notes, and I just want to make sure I'm covering everything. So, yeah, so I guess really the first thing to do is, obviously we want to try and balance your hormones, but without knowing anything, it is so important, ladies, it is so important if you are in this time period of your late 30s, 40s, going into your 50s, and you have hormonal imbalances, which I've described to you. So unexplained weight gain, hair loss, your skin quality of your skin isn't as lustrous as it used to be, you're not sleeping well, you have mood swings, you have hot flashes, you're not sleeping well, I may have said that already. Then the best thing that you need to do is to check your hormones and get those checked with your doctor. I'm going to put in some more pepper in mine. And the reason why is it's the saying that we all say as nutritionists, test, don't guess. Because I could be telling you you have high estrogen when in fact you don't. And so then some of these strategies that I may give you, or if you're working with somebody, may not be helpful. And in some cases, women, you may have to go on hormone replacement. So for myself, I am on hormone replacement for progesterone. And I've been doing that for about 2 years. But you wouldn't know what you need unless you get that tested. So I recommend testing once a year, if not twice a year, depending on what your issues are. And then obviously you can work with a nutritionist, for example, to figure out what to eat, lifestyle changes, things like that. So you can get that through your doctor, but I actually recommend working with a naturopath in particular. So yeah, I hope that helps. So let's get into the diet and lifestyle side of managing hormones, right? I'm just going to put a little bit of salt in mine. But your pasta sauce is probably seasoned, but I just, for some reason, I'm a salt girl. Not for some reason, I just am a salt girl. So what I do before we get into some of the lifestyle changes, because I'm going to let this sauce simmer, is this is my ninja move. So what I do with my zucchinis, I'm going to scoop out the insides and I'm going to add it to the filling. Smart, huh? I'm telling you. So I'm going to add that to the filling now. And you're just wanting to make like a little vessel, a little cavity. The reason why this is a good idea is because, one, we're not going to waste the inside. Two, it adds a lot more nutrients to your dinner. So we will slide that in there. Lots of fiber. This is a great low carbohydrate vegetable, zucchini, and it blends well, obviously. Takes on lots of flavors when you cook it with whatever you cook it in. But the fiber, high in vitamin C, and a nice low carbohydrate vegetable that fills you up at the same time. So I think that's good. I'm just going to mash it in there. You won't even know it's there because it's going to blend right in. Yeah, perfect. I'm going to let that saute a little bit more because I turned the heat down because it was loud. Let's turn it up a bit. Okay, so let me talk about what you can do nutritionally to help with weight gain on menopause. So, like I said, it's really important that you get yourself tested. The other thing is that you may have to go on hormones, but again, your doctor, your medical practitioner will be able to help you with that. So the second or third, I guess, thing is, of course, your diet, right? There's a few elements in this that I really want you to pay attention to. So obviously, there's a lot of talk of ketogenic diet. I'm not a proponent of a keto diet necessarily, but I do believe that there are great benefits to a low carbohydrate, not a zero carbohydrate, but like a lowish carbohydrate, higher fat diet. It really lends very well to menopausal symptoms, weight gain, any of that. Any thyroid issues, it's super beneficial. So that would be, this meal, for example, is a perfect example of what would be a lowish carbohydrate. There's still carbohydrates in there, and a higher fat eating lifestyle. So that's number one, and you can definitely get help, obviously through myself, but a nutritionist to help you through what some recipes could be like for you. The other thing is intermittent fasting is very popular too as well, in line with sort of that ketogenic approach. I definitely caution women with hormonal imbalances to do or deal with chronic stress. I do caution them from doing a lot of intermittent fasting. So I was speaking to some clients today, some of which do fasting every single day, and I do not recommend that. I practice fasting, but I also don't do it during my cycle. I don't do it when I'm dealing with large amounts of stress and I'm really stressed out, because stress boosts our blood sugar, which isn't going to help us if we are struggling with stress and we're trying to lose weight or manage our weight, that sort of thing. I'm just going to pause. So we're going to add some pasta sauce. Like I said, easy. Now, the thing about pasta sauce is you have to look for a few things in here to make sure that it is the most nutritious possible. So, two things that I want you to keep in mind. Your pasta sauce should not have added sugar to it, and a lot of pasta sauces do. I just had one a couple weekends ago on a trip, and I actually didn't look at the recipe or the ingredients, and when I ate it, I knew right away that they had added sugar, and it just blew the meal. So make sure there's no sugar added to it. And the second thing is making sure that it does not have canola oil in it or any nasty oil, but it tends to be canola oil a lot. This one's really good if you're in Canada. You know, it's a really good price if you need a quick pasta sauce. It's made with, it has olive oil in it, and all the ingredients are organic. Simple. So I'm only going to use probably half of this, and we're going to just pour that right in and let it simmer. It's got tons of garlic in it. I don't even think I'll use half. And we're just going to let it simmer. That's it, guys. And we're going to put it in our boats. And I'll tell you what to do after it's simmered a bit. And I think that's good. Ooh, maybe a little bit more. All right. So instead of intermittent fasting, what I recommend some of my clients, definitely some do intermittent fasting, but time-restricted eating. So what that means is that you just go a period of time with no eating. I sort of recommend between 10 and 12, around 12 hours for women, 12, maybe max 14. Super easy to do because your last meal, let's say it's at 7 o'clock, and maybe you might have a breakfast around 10 a.m. Well, 9, 10 a.m. goes pretty quick. And so then you've had a time-restricted eating window. So I do encourage that for some women. Myself, particularly when I am fasting, I actually fast with a blended coffee. It's something that I offer my clients so that they're not necessarily going completely without, you know, something in their body. They're still getting some fat and some protein and that sort of thing. And I find that that is really helpful for my clients as well. So I don't recommend you just waking up tomorrow morning and doing fasting. There are ways that you would ease into that. And so I really encourage you to have some support with that so you know what you're doing. But again, it's not necessarily something that every woman should do, and certainly is not something you would do every single day. But it's really good for mental clarity, obviously weight loss, great for your cells, anti-aging, all of those things. One of the key ingredients, and I'm just going to pull it out here in a sec, hang on tight. Especially for those of you that are having issues with, you know, hair, skin, and nails, you know, the quality of your skin's really changed, which is very common. It's actually one of the things I really noticed at 40, almost 42. Definitely probably taking progesterone's helped me too as well, but one of those things that I really like is collagen. So I put collagen predominantly in my coffee because I drink coffee every day. I put a scoop in it, and it's amazing for hair, skin, and nails, but it's also great for digestion, which for a lot of us, we're poor digesters because we're eating in a stressful state, we're eating too quickly, we're not chewing our food enough. So all of those things, not to mention the fact that we can eat a highly processed diet at times, and that's not good for our digestion as well. So I recommend collagen in your diet. You can also get collagen through eating grass-fed meats, high-quality meats, those sorts of things. Another recommendation that I give those women that are dealing with menopause symptoms and weight is becoming an issue. Like I said, it's not uncommon to gain 10 pounds or more going through menopause or transitioning into menopause, after menopause, those sorts of things. So one of the things that I recommend, but I recommend this for all of my clients regardless, is to avoid snacking throughout the day. So ultimately, you should be able to sustain your energy with just 3 meals a day, maybe even 2, depending on your health, right? Again, skipping meals is not the answer to weight loss. In fact, you can gain weight from skipping meals and restrictive eating. So just reducing snacking is extremely helpful when trying to lose weight, because what happens with snacking, sometimes we're not actually that hungry. I think we think that we have to eat multiple snacks throughout the day because that's what's going to keep our weight down or help us to lose weight, but that is a big false. Ultimately, every time that you eat, you are spiking your blood sugar. So the thing about snacking, a lot of us, we sit in office jobs. So if we're snacking 2 times a day and having 3 meals, and we're sitting at a desk for 8 to 10 hours a day, we're not burning. So that's the thing. So we want to minimize snacking to avoid that blood sugar rush, which of course, when we have excess blood sugar, if the body can't manage it out, it gets stored as fat. So snacking, no bueno. Now, that's not to say if you legitimately are starving, maybe you didn't have enough for lunch. I always say just look at your main meals, and if you have to snack, it's because you haven't created a nutritionally dense meal, which explains the snacking, right? I'm just gonna put my spinach in. Hang tight, I'm going to bring this out. So I'm just gonna put in some chopped spinach into this too as well. I'm gonna just put a nice big couple handfuls. Whoop. Making a mess. Okay, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I just want more nutrients. So easy. And the best time to do this, add this obviously, I'm just gonna take a bunch and just chop it. That's it. And dropping some on the floor, of course. Tossing it in and giving it a stir. That is it. So what I am going to do next, just gonna let that wilt a bit. I mean, that is almost, 2 cups of spinach, guys. 2 cups of spinach right in this is amazing. There's so much iron and vitamin C in that, so that's awesome. I'm gonna let that cool a little bit. I'm gonna fill in the sausage boats. I'm gonna pop it in the oven. I will, when we end this, I will show you how we're gonna do that. But let's finish up. So let me check my notes. The other thing is, I talked to somebody this morning who is, it's not just this morning, it's regularly. I mean, hands up, any of you that are have such a fear of carbohydrates. Give me a hands up, yes, or maybe it's a no, in the comments, and let me know if you are scared to eat carbohydrates. I know that there are people, because I was one of them, so I know I'm never alone. There's just so much negativity about carbohydrates right now because, again, we're talking about this ketogenic diet, right? And that's no carbs, which is unrealistic. Everything's got carbohydrates. But we need carbohydrates. The thing about it is that a lot of people eat too much of it and not the right kinds. So zucchini has carbohydrates in it. It's a lower carb vegetable. It's going to have lots of other great things in there, so we don't want to be scared of it. The thing about it is we do need, as women, carbohydrates to help with producing hormones and helping with sleeping and that sort of thing. So in my practice, I recommend that clients eat their main carbohydrate at night. So it doesn't have to be a lot, but it's not going to set you back. And if you have a bowl of pasta, which I eat often, it's not going to set you back in your weight. So just keep that in mind, but it does obviously help to curb cravings too as well. Just be careful in terms of how much protein you eat, because obviously that does have the capacity to spike blood sugar. Now, so those are my food recommendations. What I also want to talk about is exercise, and really the best forms of exercise for somebody who, well, any woman really. I mean, exercising nowadays does not necessarily have to be hitting the gym, you know, every day for an hour or two. It doesn't have to be that way. What I do encourage is, you know, high intensity interval training, doing some yoga, maybe high intensity yoga if you can do it, that sort of thing. Weightlifting is really helpful. So even just getting a kettlebell in your house, a 10, 15 pound kettlebell, and doing kettlebell exercises throughout the day, because we know that our testosterone lowers as we get older. And the thing about it is, women, we need testosterone as well. Men need more of it, but we need it too as well. And there's two reasons. Obviously, testosterone is helpful for a healthy sex drive. So if you have gotten, you know, older and you've noticed that that's tanked, that's usually an indicator you have low testosterone. The other thing is testosterone is what helps to build muscle. And when we have muscle helps to burn fat too as well. So lifting heavy things is super beneficial for building muscle, boosting testosterone to build muscle, that sort of thing. So if you are lifting 10 pounds a week, a few times a week, you're not going to walk out a bodybuilder by any means. It's really going to help you in the long run. High intensity interval training, doing some, you know, vinyasa style yoga that gets your heart rate up, but it does not necessarily mean you have to do marathons and triathlons and all those high endurance sports, but you certainly want to get your heart rate up. You definitely want to sweat, and you definitely want to, move. So a few other things that is really important, and you know this: have a healthy sleep routine, reduce your stress, you know, bring in, you know, do some self-care practices, get some essential oils in, track your cycle, get to know your cycle. I find it so interesting, our menstrual cycle. It's just connected to our femininity, and it's femininity. Did I say that right? It's our, you know, it's our vitality, it's our essence, it's our sexuality, it's all of those things are so important to our overall health. So that's why I encourage women to track their cycle, because, you know, there's periods in your cycle where you have more energy. There's periods in your cycle where you're exhausted and you're craving everything. Times where your brain focus, you're more creative, you're more focused. There's times when you're not, you're scattered. And when you are tracking your cycle, you give yourself an opportunity to understand all that and not feel like a raging idiot. I just like looking at it and going, oh, that explains why I feel like I'm crazy. So I encourage you to track your cycle, and if you need any help with that, please let me know. Get more sleep, we talked about that, and I think that's it. So pretty simple stuff, ladies. It's actually not, I think, you know, really too much of a challenge to really make some changes into your life when it comes to heading into menopause or in menopause, post-menopause, all of those things. So I want to know if you found that helpful. Let me know right now while I set this up. And if you are watching and you are going through menopause, let me know, and let me know if this was helpful to you. Okay, good, good, excellent. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, really simple. Here is my mixture, right? Simple, guys. And then you just use the rest for, I don't know, a pasta if you want it, grain-free. Put it on top of zucchini noodles. You can get grain-free pasta, which was what I was going to do, and then I forgot it. We're just going to fill the boats. Woo, hot, hot. The other thing that you can do with this is you can fill these. Fill these. You can put cheese on top if you're into it. I am not, because I had dairy today already. And so I kind of watch my dairy intake. And we get extra. So for a meal, I mean, I would recommend eating 2 of these, personally. Or maybe sharing, doing 1.5. So then you get 2 meals out of this. No, you'll get more than 2 meals out of this. So maybe you share with somebody. How's that sound? Sharesies. Oh yeah, so good. So we've been on here for 30 minutes, right? That's it. That's how long this took. I'm popping it in the oven just to, I don't know, don't really need to. So if you pre-cooked your zucchini, you don't necessarily have to put this back in the oven. I am, because like I said, I like my zucchini a little bit softer. Ooh. So I'm probably just going to put this in for maybe 18 minutes. I'm going to show it to you. Can you see it? There we go. And that's it. Pop it in for like 15 minutes. Like I said, add a little cheese on top if you want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, oops, God, this timer is like such a pain in the ass. I am going to add some parsley to the top of it. And that's it. So that's it, guys. I hope you found that really helpful. Yeah, let me know. Leave me any comments. Let me know if you have any questions. And I love chatting with you. It's so much fun. So let me know if you have any. Leave a comment below. And I will post the full recipe on this on this page and also in my Facebook group if you don't already belong. It'll all be in there. So I will leave you be. Have a great Sunday. Thanks for hanging out with me. Bye.